What's going on, everybody? Welcome to IndieQuest, the celebration of the indie and obscure. Your home for everything video game. And what kind of video games is that? It's indie video games. I am one of your hosts, Josh, or Frantic. I'm here with one of my sterling, wonderful, splendiferous co-host, Captain Drachma. How are you doing today?
I'm doing as well as I can with a sore throat. It is that time of year. I feel like we do this every year. 1 or 2 months in the winter time, I've got a little bit of a rasp going on, and that might happen. I might cough a little bit, and I apologize, but I am extremely excited to talk about some indie games with you, fine gentlemen. Steve, you're over there. How are you doing?
I am over here. I'm doing about as good as you. It's there's just a sickness going around IndieQuest HQ right now, it seems. Not a sore throat, and I'm not gonna burden people with a full description of my symptoms, but at least in my case, you won't hear a rasp, and I'm trusting that Josh will edit around any of my indecencies that may come up as we record. So,
but otherwise, good. With the sickness, you're down with the sickness.
We got that.
Get out, come on, get down. Okay, yeah, jokes. Any games you guys have been playing lately that you're grinding on, indie or otherwise?
Yeah, I've been playing. I feel like I've talked about it on previous episodes, but I am basically constantly playing Octopath Traveler 2 at this point, an hour or two here and there, depending on what else I'm playing. It's kind of the perfect RPG for that. Like a lot of RPGs, you want to stick with because you don't want to forget what's going on. But Octopath Traveler 2 has all the disjointed stories, of course. You can almost hop in and out of it, and as long as you remember just enough, it works pretty well in that bite size. That's kind of why I like it. It's almost like it's a full-length 60-hour game, but you can take it off in chunks, and it still feels good. And then on top of that, I've been playing Mega Man Zero, which, if anybody doesn't know, Polykill. We're in 2002 right now. Mega Man Zero, I think, has often been said that it is on the lower end of Mega Man games, or at least the Zero series, because they are difficult and not in a fun way. There's a lot of weird late 90s, early 2000s obstructions that they put in your way. There's not really... It's really weird. There's lives, but there's no continues really, so you just kind of almost have to restart every time you die. So yeah, and there's a lot of grinding because of different things, these elves that you get. But I'm having a good time, but it's certainly not as good as the main series or the X series, I would say. But what are you guys playing?
I mean, you can check out Polykill if you want to hear everything I'm playing, but just to get into Drachma's good side, all right? I have been playing an RPG.
Oh.
Yeah. So I went back to that Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is the 7th Yakuza game, because Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth just came out. So I dusted off the old 30-hour save, picked her back up, and I'm back into the meat of that, which feels good. Although now, to quickly bounce away from my AAA talk here, last thing is... now I'm sweating because Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is going to be coming out in a couple of weeks, and I'm like doing the math of how many free hours of time I have every day to play games and how long I think Yakuza is going to be, and I'm like, I'm not seeing it. So
got it close.
You got to make a choice.
It's going to be spicy. Josh, what have you been playing?
I guess this would be my excuse to talk more about Final Fantasy 16, because that's pretty much most of my last weekend, man. And
sign me up.
Let's just say I was at the edge of my seat. They had me crying at some point. I had got emotional. I was cheering. This game has everything. It has all the hype, all the emotion, and it's incredible. So it's getting me wanting to play bigger RPGs, but then it's is anything gonna live up in my head to this game? Because I'm really it's actually get me kind of getting into my top 25, top 10 almost maybe favorite games I've played. But that could be recency bias, but still it's damn, it's something else. So that's what I've been playing mostly. I took a little bit of a break to play some indies, including like Tinykin, and then some Steam Next Fest stuff, which we'll talk about in a minute here. And then my pick today too. So, kind of mixed bag here, but yeah, Final Fantasy 16, man, I can just keep going on about that one, but still, yeah.
I'm glad you're still enjoying it, man. I got to get back and do the DLC. Not for at least a couple of months, but I'll get back there. You say it makes you want to get to boot up another RPG. It's like, well, Final Fantasy 16 is so not an RPG that I don't know.
I know.
Other than a replay of Kingdom Hearts, I don't know you're going to feel it.
I know. Maybe that's all it is. It's just like it's Kingdom Hearts, but with like a Game of Thrones coat of paint or something. Or
yeah, basically.
Maybe that's what it is. That's why I'm liking it. But yeah, I'm really digging it. But yeah, like I said, I did play some Steam Next Fest. Have you guys dove into any of these demos before? Are you guys demo people really at all?
No, unless it's a game that I'm really excited for and it has one of those demos where your save file carries over. Mm-hmm. So, like, funny enough, I played the Final Fantasy 16 demo because it was basically like getting to play the first 3 hours of the game a week early and then continue it on launch. But otherwise, I don't usually do a lot of demos. I have been playing one Steam Next Fest game. We'll talk about that at the end, but I've seen some stuff, so I'm curious to hear what jumped out to you and, put some stuff on my wish list.
How about you, Captain? Do you ever mess around with demos or anything?
I haven't really played what most people would call a demo since, like, there were demo discs. And I think it's because I don't like to play a game. Now, I guess if the game is about to come out, maybe I'll play the demo like a day early, but I don't like to play a demo and then love the game and have to wait a month. And then because I'm going to end up replaying that section anyway, because I just will want to have that fluid experience. I just talked about playing Octopath Traveler in chunks, but for most games, especially most shorter games, I like to play them pretty much straight through with not a lot of interruptions. So that's why I usually don't play demos.
Okay. I think what I like about the Next Fest is because it's kind of like I can just scroll through this list of games. Maybe I've heard of them, maybe I haven't. Maybe just dive in for 30 minutes or an hour just to see if they're going to be my cup of tea. Who knows, So what I'm going to do for these is they're going to be really short descriptions of what the game are, kind of my impressions. We can have a little chit chat. We have about 5 here that we'll talk about. I've done this a couple of times. I don't do it on every Next Fest because I think they're like every 2 months or something now. They're really common now. They used to be like once a year, but they really amped that up. So it's like we're not going to be doing Next Fest every 2 months, but
right.
I just was in the mood to load up my Steam Deck with some just random stuff that looked fun, and let's dive in. So the first one I played was Berserk Boy. Have you guys heard of Berserk Boy? No? Okay.
I haven't.
I think I've seen some GIFs of it now that I'm looking at screenshots, but I don't know much about it other than what I could obviously, glean from looking at screenshots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played like the first few stages of this. It's pretty much Mega Man X, but modern day with some, I would say, more modern looking animations to it. A lot about absorbing other characters' powers, and you got like a lightning power, and it's about moving really fast through the level. My first impression was it will be one of those type of games. If you're into Mega Man X, you're going to really dig it. Like, as far as I can tell. And then I saw on the Discord, which if you want to get on the Discord, go over to the Patreon, the Polykill Patreon, get over there and chat with us on the Discord, best place on the internet. And Elite MYT was talking about this today, and apparently they have a copy of the game early, and they're like, yeah, this game's kind of frustrating. So I would say maybe wait and see for general impressions for this one. It looks like something that, like, maybe the first couple levels are fun. Like, I had a great time with it. I was like, yeah, this is Mega Man X, like, fan inspiration or something. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would maybe wait a little bit on that one. But I don't know, it's pretty fun. I had a good time with it. Another one I tried was Pepper Grinder, which is one of those awesome Devolver Digital games. You guys probably seen a little bit of this one, right?
Yep.
This is one where you're like shooting through, you're like digging through dirt and stuff, kind of like in Ori and Will of the Wisps.
Yeah, a little bit of that. Gave me a little bit of what's that? Yoshi's Island with the little digger option, but like
yeah,
super
yeah.
fast. Yeah, a little bit of
Nice.
that vibe too. A lot of it is trying to like dig through the ground with your giant like nose drill thing, diagonally, and trying to collect coins. It's pretty much a collectible 2D platformer. It wasn't very challenging when I played it, and this is one of those I played like 3 or 4 stages, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is going to be probably something I'm going to be really into, and I think Steve's going to really like it. Actually, all 3 of us will probably enjoy this one. Yeah, it's just really well designed. Graphics are really pretty, and I think it was, and it played really smooth. So I think that's one to keep on your list there. That's one to keep an eye on. It comes out pretty soon. I think I don't know what the exact release date is. I know it's a 2024 game.
Nice. Yeah, that one will be fun. I'll definitely play that one before the end of the year.
Yeah, I would like to get to it too.
Okay, and then the next one I have is Children of the Sun. Have you guys heard of this one at all?
Is this the like sniper one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw a video of this and it looked awesome.
It's this is the one I played the most, I'll say. It's kind of like I spelled it wrong in the doc here. I put sun, S-O-N. It's sun, like sunlight. I was like, wait, why can't I find this now? Okay. I was trying to like pull up the visuals in front of me That's here. Funny. Anyway, it's kind of like it's hard to describe the art style. I would say it's acid washed. That's probably how I would describe the art style. Very like dark and tonal. But the thing about the game is you have one sniper bullet, and it's a puzzle game where you are bouncing between like greenish yellow objects, which are usually characters, or that you have to snipe, or like tanks of a car or birds in the air. And pretty much what you're trying to do is bounce this sniper bullet all around the map and get all the targets out in the most efficient and fast way possible. And then there's like a scoreboard that you can do, and there's a leaderboard, it's like, oh, you're number 6,000 in the world or whatever, and it's pretty much a time attack or like a score attack version of that. But honestly, the puzzles are really fun to like kind of piece out, so because usually you just shoot a bullet and you're like, okay, I know there's a dude there, and you can kind of like run around the map at the beginning and kind of like mark things that are yellow, so you have like 10 things that you got to snipe, and then you're just trying to get that bullet around without running into any objects. And it gets to the point where you have like slow down mechanics, and you can like turn the bullet in mid-flight and things like that. So they start layering new mechanics as you're playing too.
Yeah, looks really cool. It reminds me a lot, and I think this is a pretty obvious intentional influence for this team, but it reminds me a lot of like Killer 7 or like a Suda 51 game.
Yeah,
it's got just kind of like that weird, stylish sort of energy to it.
Yeah, it's like grimy, a little bit of grindhouse griminess to it. Yeah. This one, like, I think I've played like 30 levels, and that's probably just really just scratching the surface on it. Like this demo was pretty intensive. I think I played it over an hour. So like, and the thing is, it's like a puzzle game. So this is going to be when I play it again, I might remember some of the solutions, but I feel like it's still going to be just as fun to start over when it comes out. And this is actually developed by Renee Rother, but Devolver Digital picked this one up, so it's published by them as well. So
this
it has
like
that
a
vibe.
Devolver game. Yeah, I was like, this has got to be Devolver. Yeah,
so it looks really cool. I think this is my highlight for the games I played. This is the one that stuck out to me as like, wow, this is kind of cool. I didn't think I would like this as much as I did. So
yeah.
The fact that you could play 30 levels in a demo and you didn't even get like, that's how many levels are going to be in the main game. That's awesome.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
for real.
Yeah. And then the next one is Blood. #BLUD. I don't know if the hashtag's always been in the title, but I've been kind of slowly following this one for a few years. It's it looks like Dexter's Laboratory art style, basically.
Very much so.
And I don't know how to feel about this one. It's a top-down action like RPG where you're using your fists and uppercuts to punch like bugs and creatures in the environment. I love the art style, but so far the gameplay itself, I wasn't like super impressed with I played like 45 minutes maybe, not super deep, pretty surface level. I was like, the gameplay and the humor in the conversations was pretty fun, but I'm not sure if I was digging the actual feel of the game. Maybe I need to play a little bit more, kind of wait and see on that. But you can take selfies in the game. It's very cute. It's an amazing art style. I think I'll play it just for that anyway. So
yeah, it
interesting.
Looks cool.
Yeah,
reminds me of you said Dexter's Laboratory. Reminds me of like Amazing World of Gumball or Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends or something like that. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it has that Cartoon Network vibe, right?
Yes, seriously. Yeah, that early 2000s. Yep.
And then I want to talk a little bit about Helskate. Lastly here, this demo it feels very early. It's just one map. But I just wanted to see, does it play like Tony Hawk? And the answer is yes, but kinda. There's a little bit of differences and nuances to it. I mean, it's cool as hell. You're in there skating around. It reminds you of Tony Hawk Underground. The feel of it really feels like that era of Tony Hawk, like Tony Hawk Forward to Underground era. And I mean, it's cool. You're a demon. You're hacking and slashing with the triggers, which is different. And instead of like doing like the revert with the R2, it kind of does like a spin attack, kind of like Crash style a little bit. So there are little subtle differences. It's a roguelite, so there are like shirts that do different powers, just like a jetpack shirt you can buy, and you get like a little boost jump jetpack thing, and like, you know, little things like that. So the runs are all going to be different, obviously, since it's a roguelite. And I don't know what the storyline is. They don't really have much story in the demo, but from what I've played, it feels like Tony Hawk with a twist. You can grind on a giant centipede, which is awesome. What think of hell and the crazy bugs and creatures that you can hack and slash. You can also skate on top of their heads and, grind and do wall plants against them too. It's pretty cool.
Were you wishing that it felt more like Tony Hawk? Like once you got into it, you're like, you probably got used to it, I'm sure, but were you wishing you just got into it and it was like, oh, this is Tony Hawk?
Right when I got on the sticks, I was like, this is Tony Hawk, but the camera's a little different because they have other mechanics in there, like the hack and slash mode, and like when you do like a wall ride or a wall plant, the camera felt like a little weird, and it still feels a little early in some respects, but I can see that there's like a nugget of awesomeness there, and hopefully this game turns into be something really cool. I think it's going to be in early access for a year or longer, they're saying, so it's going to be one of those where I might like buy it and pop in here and there, and then that's it, and then play it when it comes out, or maybe I'll just wait for it to come out. I'm not sure yet, but it does play really good.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited to check that one out. It kind of happened by accident, but the only Steam Next Fest game that I've been playing is Stormgate, which is, I feel almost like this is cheating. It's not. It's definitely an indie, but like it is by former Blizzard employees, and it is trying to recreate the billion-dollar Blizzard company experience. But yeah, if anyone out there is an old StarCraft 2 head, or I guess Warcraft 3, there's a lot of influence there too. Some of the staff that made those games spun off, made a studio called Frost Giant, and they kickstarted a new RTS, which is a genre we don't see a lot of, although it seems to be coming back right now. And I've been playing some of that because it went into closed beta, and then during Next Fest it had its first open beta where you could play as a couple of different races and stuff. So yeah, I won't get super into like the weeds about the gameplay itself, but it's good to be playing an RTS that is pretty familiar, but also does some fun and interesting things. If folks out there are familiar with RTS games and they have been kind of missing those early 2010 era games, check out Stormgate. I think you'll be into it. Well, now I don't think you can check it out anymore because the open beta is done. But yeah, keep your eye out for when it comes out. I think later this year because it's pretty good.
Yeah, how would you like relate it to StarCraft? Because I know you're a big StarCraft guy. Is it like almost there, or is it like kind of its own thing?
I would say it's probably a lot closer to Warcraft 3, actually.
Warcraft 3, okay.
It has like creep camps and stuff, so you can run around the map and like kill neutral enemies to get some resources and things like that, which StarCraft never had. It doesn't have heroes like Warcraft 3 did. And in general, I think the feel of the game, like the time to kill and stuff, is slower. Enemies have a lot more HP, which is something I think of as like a Warcraft thing, the units being more tanky. But it's also Like there's no denying, especially like the human race that they have in there is kind of 1-to-1 with Terran. It's very, very familiar. If you played Terran in StarCraft 2, you'll understand 90% of the mechanics of this race. Like, how to repair stuff, how to build stuff, to make a barracks, to make a unit that's not called a Marine, but it is a Marine, that type of thing. So
it's very for the people that were into that.
Yeah.
Here's some more of that awesomeness for you. Sounds like, yeah.
Yep, it's very non-copyright infringing. I mean, the same thing happened, Josh, with the game that you love, with Marvel Snap. Some of the Hearthstone people started that studio. So this is just the RTS version of that. The talent leaves Blizzard. Not that there aren't talent people employed by Blizzard, of course, but some of the talent leaves Blizzard and starts their own smaller thing, which is fun to follow.
Yeah, I love that.
Heck yeah.
Sweet. So we do a thing on IndieQuest where we bring games to the ever-growing quest log. I will tell people about what the quest log is since you guys aren't feeling 100%, so I'll go ahead and describe it for the folks out there. There's 2 sections to it. There's the main quest, which is the wonderful, amazing games. Like, these games are just spectacular. Like, hey, you got to play this. This is so recommendable. Like, anybody will have a good time if they jump into any of these games on this list. The side quest is, these games are still fantastic, wonderful, but there might be a couple of caveats, or maybe this is a very niche game for a specific person. Or maybe it's not quite as good as the main quest, but it's still a damn good game. We do not bring games here we dislike. All the games that we bring here are recommendations. So who wants to put their game on the quest log first today?
I'll go first today.
You're going to go?
Yeah, I feel like I usually force one of the two of you guys to go. I usually say, who wants to go first? Which implies that I don't have to. So every now and again, I think it's only fair that I step up and do it myself. All right. Brought you a little video game today. I chose a video game in lieu of a board game on IndieQuest today.
Cool.
And if you listen to Polykill, you have an idea what it was. I'm going to talk to you about Severed. Now, I don't actually know. Have either of you fellas enjoyed Severed?
I have not played Severed, but is this the game that was by Drinkbox? Is that this game? Okay.
It is, yes. Drinkbox. The makers of Guacamelee, which
a great main quest game. Oh, wait.
Yes, which I famously side quested 50 episodes ago, and some people are still bitter about it, but that's all right. No accounting for taste. But yes, I've been feeling sometimes I'm in kind of a wave of bringing new, hot, fresh indies, and sometimes I'm like, let's go back in time and, who else is talking about Severed right now? Not many people. So I figured, why the heck not? So yes, this is developed and published by Drinkbox. This game came out in 2016, April of 2016, and it is available on the Switch, the Vita, which was the platform it originally launched on. If you happened to have already downloaded it, it would have been on the 3DS and the Wii U, and it's available on iOS. Notably, to all of those platforms, they all have touchscreens, because this is a very touchscreen-focused game. In fact, I should have done my research about the Switch port. I don't actually know if you can play it docked, but I would hope not, because it is a game that really should be experienced on a device with a touchscreen. That's sort of its entire deal. So, Severed, which I think was the follow-up to Guacamelee by that studio. I don't think there was anything else in between. I think this is their next game. It goes in an entirely different direction, but it retains some of the, what they were comfortable with, what they were good at. It is a first-person dungeon crawler, but it very much is inspired by and has gated exploration elements within it. So you are doing the first-person dungeon crawler thing. You are going on a grid-based map, tile to tile to tile. You're interacting with, switches and objects and enemies in first person. But then you will, over the course of the game, kind of like weave between temples and the outdoor areas, and you'll find and unlock new powers that have utility in the combat and also have utility outside of the combat. And those will open up usually either shortcuts, or more often than not, it's kind of a, you go back to a dungeon you've already gone through with some later game powers, and you can find some extra hidden objects that let you, upgrade your health or your mana, stuff like that. Get the pieces of the 4 heart containers and get a new heart, that type of deal. Except they're brains that you eat, and they're not heart containers.
Edgy.
So,
That's metal.
yeah. I mean, honestly, you say edgy. I will say this game, this is sort of a theme of a lot of the components of this game, is that it's a very Drinkbox game, and it is very Guacamelee inspired, but it is a different beast entirely. Anyone who's familiar with the Guacamelee art style will definitely see that in Severed, especially in like the cutscenes and the character designs and stuff. But Severed is much more like grimy, much more grisly, much more like body horror almost in some points. Like it is not the like playful, jovial game that Guacamelee was. Like it jokes around sometimes, but like you will see, you know, at least one decomposing body in Severed. So that's just a different vibe.
I gotta know from you, Steve, if you squinted a bit, could you kind of maybe fit this into an October play and call it a horror adjacent game?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Especially if you don't have a tolerance for scary stuff. Like I would not even put horror as like a subgenre for this game, but like it's got some stuff in there where you're like, okay, that's just unpleasant to look at in the way that some things are unpleasant.
It's like they took the memes out of Guacamelee and put gore instead.
Right? Seriously.
Yeah, like colorful gore, but gore.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the game's name is Severed, and that plays directly into the combat. So I should say how the game plays. We're talking about touchscreens. As you're exploring this map, this grid-based world, you will run into monsters, and they can spawn in like the 4 cardinal directions around you. So imagine you're kind of standing in the center and they can spawn north, south, east, west. Sometimes they spawn in all 4, sometimes it's only 1. You know, it gets more intense as the game goes on. And different enemies will have different attacks and different defensive postures that you need to interact with using swipes on the touchscreen. So like a really obvious early example, one of the earliest monsters you fight, it'll kind of do this slow winding swipe attack where it puts its hands over its head and then it'll slash down at you kind of like top right to bottom left of the screen. And when it does that, you need to swipe the opposite direction of that to parry the hand out of the way so it can't do damage to you.
Yeah.
Or an enemy will kind of like block itself, like it'll put its hands over its head and it'll block like half of its head, so you need to slash from the other direction in its exposed weak point and do damage. And so you look like an idiot playing in this game because you're just rapidly like wiggling your finger as fast as possible. The game even accounts for that because you do more damage if you do longer swipes that go further across the screen, because they know you're just going to like gyrate back and forth really rapidly. So if you do those short ones, you'll do less damage, but obviously you can get more of them in. And so it's just kind of this like back and forth of offense and defense. Enemies have like almost like a turn-based RPG style timer, almost like an ATB, where there's this meter on the bottom that fills up, and when it gets all the way around and turns red, you know that enemy is about to do an attack. So if you're focusing on one enemy and you see one of the other ones goes red, you know to like, turn 90 degrees and deflect that attack before you go back.
Nice.
So some of the multi-enemy fights actually become more about like understanding what the stronger enemies are, or what enemies you're worse at fighting, and taking those ones down faster.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And then the name is Severed. When you defeat an enemy very briefly for like a split second, for like a second, the enemy will kind of like be stunned and fully exposed. And then you have the opportunity to swipe across their body parts and cut their body parts off of them, which then become your currency that you use to upgrade your stats and your abilities and things like that.
So when you said that, you mentioned that on Polykill, and I've been wondering, I didn't really know if you'd bring this here, but I'm glad you did, because I've been wondering. So it's just pure currency. My thought at that time was, does it matter which ones you cut? Like, do you get special bonuses from cutting an arm rather than a leg, or is it just you're just getting currency from it?
Now, it's different enemies will give you different limbs and currency. So like the guy I described that kind of swipes top, left to bottom, right, that enemy has 4 hands. So when you can go to sever them, you can only cut off their 4 hands, up to 4. You probably won't get all 4 because you have to be really fast and precise to get all 4. And then you'll have certain upgrades that take a certain number of severed hands to upgrade. But there's also like eyeballs, wings, and 3 or 4 other different ones. And so you'll actually kind of want to farm certain enemies or certain areas to get certain body parts that you can then use to train and upgrade, depending on what you want to actually go ahead and upgrade. Oh, cool. But every enemy always gives you the same body parts.
Okay.
And there is, as you're exploring around the world, you will find like jars and stuff that have just sort of like nondescript meat chunks in them. And you unlock an ability that basically lets you trade. It has like an exchange rate where like X number of meat chunks can be traded for another body part. So if you're running a little low on wings and an upgrade takes 10 eyeballs and 5 wings, and you have the 10 eyeballs, you can trade your meat chunks for the 5 wings without having to like go halfway across the world to find flying enemies. So it's pretty good and pretty well balanced in that way. So yes, you will venture first person, you wander through these different dungeons. Your motivation is you're kind of dropped like just sort of into it. There is a little bit of setup, but the story essentially is you are dropped as this girl into this world and you're trying to find your family who has also become lost in this place. And I don't know if it was explicitly spelled out in the game, but you couldn't really tell, like, is this world that they're in some sort of like alternate reality? Is it some sort of like demon world? It's just like an alternate plane that exists kind of separately from the world that you or I would know. And as a result, it's just kind of like creepy, kind of like a creepy Alice in Wonderland energy, or like maybe like a Pan's Labyrinth or something, something like that. And yeah, so you will go, as you go, you'll unlock different abilities, like I said, that will let you do different things in combat. So like one example of that is you'll get an ability that lets you like use this sort of like biting attack that will let you bite buffs off of enemies. So certain enemies will have buffs that are like basically like in an RPG, like haste or regen or added defense or attack up, stuff like that. And you can steal one of those buffs by using your ability, and you kind of fill that meter to use that ability as you do a lot of normal attacks. And so you're sort of trading normal blows and spells essentially that you can use.
You take like steal that buff, so you actually have that buff, and then they don't. Then, right? Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and then of course, certain enemies later in the game will have the ability to block your ability to steal their buffs. But you can also be like, okay, this enemy has haste, and if I have to be focusing on them at 2 times the speed, I'm never going to have any time to address any of the other enemies, so I should probably steal that. Or, maybe I'll go steal this easier thing that has attack up so that I am stronger to beat the other enemies. There's a little bit of like strategy to it. Yeah. It's fast decision making, but there's a little bit of strategy to it. And yeah, so obviously it's all done on that touchscreen, but for a touchscreen game, I don't really know if they're doing anything in particular to like make it work. But a lot of times when I'm playing a touchscreen game, I have the issue of I am blocking my own view with my hand. But something about, I don't know if it's the way that the enemies attack, they get you to kind of get your own hand out of the way. And I never once felt like I was obstructing my own view. Like anytime I took damage, I was like, this is 100% on me. I barked it. I goofed basically. Yeah. So yeah, you play through. It's about like an 8-hour game or so. I ended up doing everything. I got like all the upgrades. There's not really a lot of like bonus content. So it's not, you basically get everything as you play through, but I did go back and like get the full map clear, get all my bonus powers and stuff like that. It's got some pretty fun, satisfying boss fights in there. Yeah, just all in all, it's very unique. It's one of those rare games that like really utilizes the hardware it's on. Like I think a lot of people consider this to be one of, if not their favorite Vita game, because it feels like a game that was made specifically for the Vita, even though, obviously now you can play it on Switch and stuff like that. Like it is so directly one-to-one with the hardware that it's on in a way that not every game can always be. Other than that Astrobot rescue mission when you boot it up, or Astro's Playroom when you boot it up and you do that controller demo.
Amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, any questions you guys have about it?
I think the first time I heard about this game was like on a PlayStation podcast, like Beyond from IGN or something like that, because of just how specific it is for the Vita. So that's really cool that it is as good as it sounds like it is. Do you think it would? It sounds like it would translate just fine to like mobile, right, or like Switch touchscreen if you wanted to play it that way.
Yeah, I imagine it's great on all those devices, especially if you get the OLED Switch, because the like visually it's so vibrant and colorful. I mean, it's moody. It's a lot of purples and blues and oranges and stuff, but like the colors are so vibrant that on an OLED screen like the Vita, it really pops. I mean, that guacamole art style always just like looks good on a nice OLED screen. No, they're just good at what they do.
My question, and maybe people have thought of this, but back in 2016, this certainly wasn't as big as it is today. But this game looks like it could be followed up, and I don't know if the story is follow-upable. But man, I can just see a Severed 2 in VR. I feel like it would work to be able to just swipe with your... I mean, I don't know. I mean, they probably have to change some things. It just has me thinking that a first-person game like this, and then it has me thinking like Etrian Odyssey games even could be in VR, you know, if you could stand it for that long, you know, but just that first-person view lends itself so well to a VR experience. I feel like that swiping in VR with that monster in front of you and turning, and I don't know, that'd be pretty cool.
No, I 100% agree with that. I think it'd be a perfect fit for VR. It's so Drinkbox, are you listening? That's all right. Enough updates for Nobody Saves the World. You know, stop working on whatever it is you're working on, Guacamelee 3 or whatever. We want the VR version of Severed 2.
Seriously,
that'd be there we go. To me. Oh, I was going to ask how the music was. Does it have a good soundtrack to it, or does it even like come into your mind when you think about it?
It doesn't stay in my mind, but it's really appropriate for when you're playing the game. You know, it is sort of like a little bit ominous, a little bit darker, a little bit more intense. But it's not like... I don't know. I'm not going to say it's not something you'd put on after the fact. It's just something that I felt like was a really good compliment to the game, but didn't add itself as to like my soundtrack library in a particular way. That's not to say if I went and listened to it separately, which I haven't, there wouldn't be some standout songs, or like, you know, I would appreciate some subtlety to the songwriting that I didn't when I was frantically swiping as fast as I could, so I wasn't really paying attention. But yeah, it's just very, you know, it's moody, it's heavy, it's appropriate to the game.
Nice.
Cool.
So yeah. So that's Severed, a game that most people have probably already played. It is really good though. And it's 8 years old, which breaks my freaking brain. So
seriously.
It's quest log time, baby. Where do we put it? Where does this video game fall in the quest log? It is a main quest game. So good. Honestly, awesome. Again, I respect a game so much that has like one good singular vision, especially when that is married to the hardware it's on so intimately and just executes on it perfectly. I gobbled up the entire runtime of this game and then was bummed that there wasn't more at the end. They do a good job with variety. They do a good job with like interesting locations and monsters and puzzles. And even when they start to reuse some enemies later in the game, the biggest compliment I can give the game is that the core mechanics of playing it are so intuitive and fun that I was still enjoying playing the same enemies for like the 20th time, even though I knew what types of attacks they were going to do. So yeah, got to give it up to Severed for being really freaking cool and one of the best games I've played on Vita, and certainly something that I would say is still worth your time. It would age so gracefully. If you've never played it, grab it on Switch and you'll have a good time this year for sure.
Awesome. Well,
hell yeah.
I will have to check that out eventually. Josh, hopefully you're okay with this, but I am going to go next because I'm limited on water and I'm eventually going to run out and I don't want to have to run and get it before we finish recording. But Steve, you said something about Severed does one idea really well. And I think that Severed probably does a lot of things but executes on that one idea perfectly. Yeah. I played a game for this week that literally has basically one idea. And I would agree that it executes on that, but it's literally one thing. I hinted a little bit to you guys in, over the past couple weeks. I actually discovered this game at MagFest, which has you guys thinking, maybe when I went down, there's like a whole room of only indie games at MagFest where you can walk around and demo indie games, and maybe I saw this one there. That is not true. I actually discovered this game in Trav's hotel room.
Nice.
With Tim, our buddy Tim. You guys probably don't know Tim, but Tim is the guy who holds the Geddons and everything, right? Mm-hmm. That they go to. And walked in there, and they were playing this game. And Tim actually said, Briz, give it a go. And we all watched Briz, and then I played. And then I bought it myself, and we ended up playing all night long at the house. And this game is Buckshot Roulette.
Oh, I've heard of this. Yeah. I don't know much about it, though.
I was thinking that you guys might have seen some stuff because it came out with like nothing, and I didn't know anything about it when I saw it. But then just all this fanfare, basically, where all these streamers and TikTokers and YouTubers are all playing this game. It's one of those super cheap itch games that just caught fire for one reason or another. I mean, it's not for one reason or another. There are several reasons, and I will get to them. But it's a very interesting game. And it is especially interesting because up to me playing Buckshot Roulette, I knew that I would be playing Inscription that we played last week. And Buckshot Roulette takes a lot of at least visual ideas from Inscription. It does a lot of what Inscription does. Yes.
I'm looking at this and I'm like, I was going to ask if you didn't mention, I was like, this really seems like Inscription.
Yes. So it doesn't play necessarily like Inscription, but the visual style is very Inscription, and kind of you're sitting across from someone, right? You're playing a game, I will say, sitting across from someone. So I also, if you guys remember, asked if it was okay if a game that came out very, very late in 2023 could be considered for our 2024 awards. This game is that one. It came out December 28th, 2023.
Wow.
There's practically no way that, I think, like I said, it came out rather hushed and then caught fire afterwards. So I don't know if I would have ever, especially on itch, because you can only get it on itch right now. I never would have heard about it if it wasn't for this, which this is one of the most organic brings to the show I've ever had. So it's pretty fun. But developed and published by a guy named Mike Klubnica. And then, like I said, platform is PC and can only be purchased on itch for, I think, $1.20. That is how much Buckshot Roulette is.
So specific.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. So, presentation. It reminds me of like a grainy PS1 game. Like that brownish, reddish, pixelated 3D graphical style. Like it's much grainier than Inscription. Inscription's got a level of polish to it. And this is more... I feel like there's like a PS1 Death Scream that it reminds me of that I can't remember, or Resident Evil. Like it's got that really brownish, reddish, grainy look. So that's what it reminds me of. The story. There isn't really much of a story, but I suppose what you can infer from this is that you're in a nightclub and you decide whether, based on how your night has gone, maybe your luck is down, you decide that you want to risk it all for some cash. And when I say risk it all, I mean literally. You walk out of a bathroom into this hallway where you can like overlook this nightclub scene. This guy kind of is leaning over this railing, and there's this music. It's like bum, 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 bum. And there's this door at the end of this hallway that you're walking around. And you walk down there and kick open the door, and there sits this guy named the dealer on the other side of this table, and there is a 12-gauge shotgun in the middle of it. And based on the title, everyone can probably assume what this game is, but it's basically a fancified version of Russian roulette. It is
Interesting.
very interesting. Russian Roulette is not a fun. I don't think it's a game that in real life most people would probably want to play, right? Unless you're basically out of it and you're trying to get money or something, right? But that is what Buckshot Roulette is. So I kind of already mentioned the music, the bumping, and it's just kind of club music with a creepy undertone. I will say the sound effects in this game are great. When the dealer loads the shotgun, when he racks the shells into it and out of it, when you're picking up, there's different items that you can pick up, and they all have sound effects. They sound really good, but the music itself, there's like 2 songs and not great, right? But all the sound effects behind it are good. But now that all of that is out of the way, we can get to what Buckshot Roulette is, and that is gameplay. So, honestly, you would think, well, there's probably not much to this game. You're playing Russian Roulette with a shotgun against a guy. So my guess is there are only so many rounds in this shotgun, and you shoot him, and then he shoots you, and you go until someone finally shoots the other one in the face. And that is what Buckshot Roulette is. It is certainly gruesome. There is blood effects. So if you're not into that, I wouldn't play it, although I will say I am not at all a fan of blood, and I play this perfectly fine. It's PlayStation 1-ified blood, so it's not that big of a deal. The hook of this game is the dealer will show you first how many lives you have, so you can either have 2, 3, or 4 lives, and then we'll show you the round count. So basically there's either a live round or a dead round that they call a blank. So the live rounds are in red shells. The dead rounds are in black shells. So if you get a black shell, that it's going to just click, and then you're going to rack that shell out, and then you're going to go on to the next one. It's all randomized. The dealer will show you exactly how many total rounds. There can be up to 8 rounds in the shotgun at any time. Initially, all you're really doing is kind of going back and forth with the dealer, but even before you get to what I think is the most exciting part of the game, and that is the items that you eventually get, you can actually shoot yourself if you want to, which sounds counterintuitive, but if you shoot yourself with a blank, with a dead round, then you get to keep the gun again. So it comes down to gambling odds at times, right? So an example of it, right? He shows you what's in the gun, and he's going to, before he puts them in, and it's 2 blacks and a red. To you have nothing. You have a choice, right? You can either shoot him, have a 33% chance of hitting him, or shoot yourself and have a 66% chance of not actually shooting yourself in the face. So when you do that and you get your blank, now all of a sudden it's a 50% chance to either hit him or shoot yourself, right? So you're kind of trying to just improve those odds in those kinds of ways. It still comes down to RNG and luck in certain ways, but that's where the items come in. So there are 5 different kinds of items. There is beer. When you get a beer, you drink the beer, and you automatically rack out a shell. Doesn't matter what it is. So let's say sometimes you'll have 1 blank and 1 loaded shell. If you have a beer, you can drink it and rack that out. And now all of a sudden you know exactly what the last one is, right? You got the one out. Now you can shoot yourself or shoot him, And that's the other catch, which is kind of cool. It makes it so you can actually go further in what they call the loop, the endless mode, which I'll get to. At the end of whenever there's no more shells left, you always get to keep the gun on the next round. The dealer never gets to take the gun at the beginning of a round. You always get it. So sometimes if you play strategically, you can actually get through all the rounds before you ever give it back to the dealer. And that's kind of what you want to do, right? You want to keep the gun for yourself so he doesn't get a chance to shoot. Next item, magnifying glass. Magnifying glass will let you peek inside the gun, see what kind of round is in there. So if it's red, you know you can shoot them. If it's black, shoot yourself, and now you get to move on, have better odds to get a live round. Cigarettes heal you. So if you get shot and you get the gun back, you got cigarettes on the side of your table, you can pick up cigarettes, smoke them, and heal your life back. Handcuffs make it so you handcuff the dealer. And now, no matter what, you can shoot him twice in a row. So if you shoot the dealer without handcuffs and it's blank, then it clicks and you have to give him the gun. If you shoot him and it's a live round and you hit him, you have to give it back. But if he's got handcuffs on and you shoot him with either a dead round or a live round, you get to still keep the gun for yourself the next turn. So that's why handcuffs are super nice. And then the most volatile weapon, or I guess item, but it is a weapon in this game, is the knife. The knife makes it so you can saw off the end of the shotgun and do 2 points of damage to the dealer. So wow. If you play strategically with like a magnifying glass, or you get it to the point where you know it's a live round in the shotgun, then you knife and you automatically get two damage on him. So if you play it strategically like that, you can actually win rounds very easily. Sometimes it sucks when the dealer also gets items. So it sucks when you get your items and you look across the table and the dealer's got 2 magnifying glasses and 2 knives. It's like, I cannot give the dealer the gun or else he's probably going to kill me. So I've got to find a way to stall out all these rounds, get to the next round and get more items, right? So that's kind of the back and forth of how this goes. The main game is honestly not the point of the game. I would say what you want to do is get to the loop mode or the double or nothing mode. But the main game is basically you start with 2 lives and you go back and forth. Then you learn about items, what I've already described. You go back and forth until he's dead. And then eventually you get to a third final round where you just need to get through. I'm not going to spoil it, but you need to get through and eventually kill him. And then you win the game. It shouldn't take you much more than 15 or 20 minutes to beat this game and get credits, which is cool.
Nice.
But the endless mode where you can double or nothing is what you see TikTokers and YouTubers playing all the time. They're just trying to rack up their money, get as high as they can, just keep doubling. And it is addictive. It is very fun. My brother-in-law enjoys gambling, I will say. And I showed him this game, and he was actually here yesterday for a little bit, and he's like, Let's play that game for a little bit. I'm like, okay. So I get the laptop out, take it out. You know, we're sitting, watching, whatever. We're waiting for the Super Bowl to start. And I'm telling you, he probably played Buckshot Roulette for 3 straight hours. Nice. He's like, I'm getting to $1 million. That's all I care. I just want to get to $1 million. So he just keeps trying to double. And then he's like, oh my. And then, gets killed and then restart. Double. Keeps trying. I mean, it's really addictive in that way. So very fun. I think that's all I really have to talk about it. I haven't really left a lot of room for you guys to say anything. So you guys have any questions?
No, I mean, my only mechanical question is, because it's so inscription based, is the health like a static meter, like a static number that just goes down or up when you heal, or is it like tug of war style? Like
no, each you and the dealer each have your own health.
And so if I have 3 health and dealer has 3 health, it doesn't matter how much damage I deal to the dealer, other than they need to take 3 points worth of damage.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. But then there's all the strategy comes into it where I shoot the dealer. Maybe I have a knife and I have a magnifying glass and I know that I have a live round. And I shoot the dealer. The dealer goes down to 1 left, right? Well, then you have to give the gun back, but the dealer's got 2 cigarettes. So then he's automatically back to full. So it's that back and forth like that. But yes, in terms of the health, it's not a scale weighing back and forth like Inscription. It's cool. It's health for each.
It's funny because I'm not watching like a video or anything, but I just have one screenshot pulled up as you're talking about it. And it's like, I understand everything about this screenshot now. I perfectly understand the game.
Yep.
Yeah, my question was, are the items just randomized, or is it like a pool of items you can see that gets dealt out? How does that work?
Nope, this random chest comes out of the table, and it's all random. So sometimes you can get 4 beers. Sometimes each of you only get 1 item. And there's some very frustrating times where they show you how much health you have. Let's say you have 2 health. Especially in the loop mode, everything is very randomized. So it'll be like, okay, you got 2 health. Each of you have 2 health. And then it flips over, and this is the other big part. I've kind of talked about this or alluded to it. The most challenging, I guess, part of this game is they'll flip up the round count, and let's say they got 4 and 4. So 4 live, 4 blank. They flip it back down, and then he loads the gun with it, and then you have to remember.
Oh,
that's the challenge. Now you could quote unquote cheat and have a notebook, right? And write down and keep track and have like a tally where you have on one side L for live and one side B for blank. And you could tally back and forth. You could write down at the beginning of every round how many it was to start. But I think that isn't as much fun. I like to try to shut out the outside world a little bit when I'm playing this game, because I'm telling you, this is one of those games where if you get distracted a little bit, you look back down and the dealer will have done something like, I have no idea what's in the gun now. Like now I have to like scramble and just try to get the gun to be empty so I can reset. But it's very fun to not only balance all the items that are on your side, but also like dedicate memory to what is in the gun as you pass it back and forth. It's very addictive, very good. And if anybody out there can't tell already, I do highly recommend it, regardless of where it goes on the quest log. So, but with that, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it really reminds me. This is such a irrelevant reference. There's a Mario Party mini game where there's a tree with fruit and beehives in it.
Yes.
And you choose, do I want 1 fruit or 2 fruit? And you take turns with all the players, and you're trying to, kind of do the math in your head and like kind of feel it out to be like, I don't want to be the one that takes the beehive. It feels like an intense version of that mini game.
And it sucks in that mini game too, because sometimes it's like you're the person you have to take the beat. Like there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
And that's how it's a much more strategic version of that, but that's how Buckshot Roulette is, because there's times where it's like, oh, I'm screwed. Like there's nothing I'm going to lose. But that's where, and something else I didn't mention, the dealer, they could have made the dealer perfect, like perfect AI, right?
Yeah.
Where that dealer memorizes as well as a computer and knows exactly what's in the gun at all times. But they don't do that. Sometimes I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, there's 2 rounds in there. I'm done. Like, I've only got 1 health left. Dealer's going to shoot me. And the dealer will turn the gun on himself and shoot himself in the head. Oh, and it's like, well, that is nice, because it's like, a human player could do that. They could forget. So I like that. And it's not like he's not always a moron. There are plenty of times where it's like he does the exact right thing, but they just sprinkle a little bit of randomness in there, whereas sometimes the dealer makes a mistake, which I really like.
I'm assuming the answer is no, because it's $1.20 on itch. But is there any multiplayer, any 2-player mode?
Dude, so that gets me to kind of, I'll just say it right now. This is a side quest game.
All right.
It does its thing. It does its thing extremely well. But, and honestly, it could push it, Steve. If it had multiplayer, it could be a main quest game. Honestly, this is the type of game that needs PvP so badly, and I know it would need some balancing, because, like I told you guys, the dealer, like at the end of the rounds, you always get the gun back. So you could not play around that strategy with another player. That would never happen. You'd have to pass back and forth in order to make it fair.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They would have to make it a different way. Like it would have to function slightly differently to make sure it's fair to both players. But at MagFest, me and Briz and Caleb, and it was mostly Briz and Caleb, if I'm remembering correctly, made a card game.
I was just going to say, this sounds like it could be a card game. That's so funny.
Yeah, Briz and Caleb made Buckshot Roulette with a deck of cards, and it was awesome. It was really
That's
fun.
cool.
We played several rounds of it, and honestly, none of us would probably even remember how to play the game anymore. We'd have to make it up again, but it was good. We basically used red cards for live rounds and black cards for dead rounds, and we would go back and forth, and we would know the odds going in, and there was probably some honing and some sharpening of the edges that we could do.
Yeah.
Once we played through a few rounds, but yeah, it was really good. And yes, I think I already know that the dev originally it was only the main game. You would just get to the end of this main game, and I don't want to spoil the end, but it basically takes 15-20 minutes and then you're done. Then you can play that game again. But within like a week, the dev had already put in the double or nothing loop mode. So
Nice.
I know that they're going to continue working on this because I've seen on YouTube where there's multi-million view videos on Buckshot Roulette, which is wild.
Yeah.
It just caught fire. So, yeah, I mean, side quest game, but it's one of those side quest games that knew exactly what it was doing and feels like it went out and that's what it was going for, is the prototypical side quest game. But it is so good, and everyone out there should experience it. Like, for $1, if you've got a PC that can run it, which wouldn't take much, buy it, try it out. So much fun. I highly recommend.
Awesome. I want to try this now. This sounds really fun.
Yeah, I have the page loaded up. I'll just buy it after we're done talking here.
Yeah, that's what I did. We played it at the hotel, and then I went back, and I was like, I got to, because there were a few people that didn't go to MagFest that day, and I was like, I got to show you guys something. And I just bought it, and I gave the mouse to Dylan, and Dylan just played it for like
Nice.
40 minutes.
Nice.
It was great. It was great.
That's cool. Sweet. Well, I guess it's my turn here to bring a game to the quest log. So I have a game today that has one idea
Ooh,
that does it really, really well.
Eh.
that will lend us a good title, Josh. Sometimes we struggle with that, but yeah.
So this game is called Teardown. Have you guys heard of Teardown?
I have, yes.
This game came out in 2022. It was released on consoles last year. It was free for PS Plus. That's how I got a copy of it. This game is, first off, it's a voxel game. So everything's square, blocky looking. It's very beautiful, though. I will say, you think Minecraft, but the most beautiful version of Minecraft you've ever seen. That's what this game looks like. A lot of urban environments, a lot of things to do in this game. So what is the game? It's a sandbox game. It's first person. It is a puzzle explosion game. I guess I'll explain what I mean. Or a puzzle heist game. That might be a better way to describe it. But pretty much what it is let's say you are in, you get little challenges you got to do in the map. So you have unlimited amount of time to go through the map to set up a scenario to do the challenge in 60 seconds. So there can be, all right, you got to steal 6 sports cars from this guy's house. How are you going to steal 6 sports cars in 60 seconds? Well, you go through with your sledgehammer and your rocket launcher or your fire, whatever tools you get more as you play the game. You start out with a sledgehammer. So let's say I'm going to bust a hole in this wall. I'm going to go down here. You got a spray can, which is actually pretty useful. You can draw like your course. You're basically going to plot a course to do this in 60 seconds. So you want to take all 6 of these cars and get them to wherever in the map. So I'm going to blow up this wall. I'm going to walk over here. I'm going to sledgehammer this. And then you just start planning this whole situation, right? And as soon as you steal that first car, the 60-second timer goes. And you have to steal all 6 of them in that 60 seconds. And then that's pretty much the main premise of the game. And they do a lot of fun and creative things with this, be it go into this world. We got a tower that you got to destroy. Okay, you got 30 seconds to destroy this tower. Do it. As soon as you walk into the premise, you got 30 seconds to destroy it. You have a wrecking ball. You have TNT. It's really, really fun. I think the physics system in this is really what makes it that much more just really fun to pick at. Like, you can sledgehammer down an entire building if you want to. So say
Nice.
you got to steal 6 computers, 5 computers, whatever. you can just dismantle this entire house except for the little computer module that's hanging by like a wire, if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
There's moments in this game where I was like, all right, I have to get this car across the water. Do I drive it around, or do I park this boat in this perfect spot to drive the car onto the boat to get it over to where I need it? It's all about creative, problem solving to manage all of these challenges. There is a storyline, a very, very basic one. You're just like a chaotic dude that doesn't take sides. Like, you're helping out two different people, and like, okay, you're gonna go steal this rich guy's cars, and then you help that rich guy fuck over the other guy, you know what I mean, or whatever. Okay. And it's back and forth, a lot of that, basically what the storyline ends up being. Yeah, what do you guys think? Have you guys ever seen this game in action? Because it is something else.
I haven't, so I don't know that I'd ever heard of it, really. Probably had seen screenshots like in passing at some point, but it's got like 80,000 positive, like, or 95% positive review on Steam, which is absolutely wild. Obviously, so many people have played this game. This game reminds me of, and honestly, I want to check it out purely for this reason, but we were all kids once, right? And I imagine all three of us, we're creative. We're creative guys, right? So I imagine we all like to play with Legos. This really reminds me of like what a child's imagination is when they're playing with Legos. This is like a Lego world because it really looks like that. The cars look like Lego cars, and you can destroy and like, that's what in my head when I'm destroying my Legos and running stuff into each other, I'm imagining the fire and like the explosions, and you just can't get that. But in this video game, it literally looks like a Lego town that you get to play in. It looks so cool. And like, I'm not trying to disparage the looks. It's like the most realistic Lego town you've ever seen. It's awesome.
It's like you take a amazing God rays and put it over a Lego village or something, right? Yeah. So like I say, like 50% of this game is just enjoying the destruction, because it is very, very satisfying to blow things up. It's just really fun to, like, okay, there's something I have to get on the top floor of this building. Let's just destroy like 3 stories whole inside of each of these stories to drop down or something like that. Or, I have little sticks of like stick TNT or dynamites you can throw against the wall and blow up. Some materials in the environment are harder than others. So the basic things like wooden walls or glass, or, like the sides of cars, you can dent them and things like that. You can hit with the sledgehammer, but there are things you can't really break easily with the sledgehammer. That's when, so throughout the course of like the story, you do a mission and then you can get cash, and there will be random items that will start unlocking. So the first thing I think you get is a shotgun, and the shotgun you can use to break through steel. And that's the first time you're able to bust through metal. So you have to like shotgun a hole in the metal to get through it. You have a limited amount of ammo, and that's where the cash comes in. You can level up the weapons to get more ammo and more damage and more distance and things like that. And so there's kind of like a micro progression going on there throughout the game. You get like you get little sticks of dynamite that you can throw at stuff. You get rocket launchers way later in the game and things like that. Everything's limited, but you have unlimited time in the map to plan out the heist. So you can sit there for 2-3 hours and just get your perfect route made. And then you can, they have a quick save option. You just quick save like right before you do it. And then you can do the run. Okay, maybe I messed up. All right, let's try that again. Reload real quick and try that again. So it's kind of like, speedrunner, like heaven, really, when you're looking at it. I was looking up some speed runs, and people have thought of some crazy stuff that I never thought of, which is cool. And like always with speedrunners, but it is really hard, I will say, when you get to the later stages. It like gets like how is this even possible? Because there's like side objectives that you can do. So say like there's 3 cars you have to do, and then there's like optional objects that you can like do throughout the map, like, oh, collect this letter, steal this computer, and then drive this car off into the water and then steal these 2 cars. And you're like, okay, the main objective is just to steal these 2 cars, but there's all these side objectives you have to do in 60 seconds. And you're like, how is this even possible, right? And then you watch somebody do the run, you're like, they make it look so easy.
Mm-hmm.
they have it all perfectly planned out. And the maps aren't small. They are pretty dang big. So you're going to be having to just really optimize the time. And I think that's the fun of it, is just trying to figure out this really weirdly designed and interesting puzzle game. Like, I haven't played anything quite like it.
Yeah, that's I enjoy that optimization in some of the games. When it's annoying at first because you're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and I can't, like, I'm not even coming close. But then once you figure it out, it's so satisfying, right? Like, oh, this was in front of my face the whole time, and then you get it, and it just clicks. It all clicks together, and it just feels so good.
Normally, I don't care about this, but I'm curious, how does the game perform? Because these are like a bajillion tiny squares shooting everywhere. Like, I'm not going to lie, I looked up the trophy list for it while we're talking about it, and there's trophies for destroying 100 million bricks. Like, that is a lot of freaking bricks. So, like, with that many physics objects moving around all at once, like, does it ever chug?
Occasionally. I'll say that the normal mode on PlayStation, I didn't really mess with it, but there is a performance mode I've heard does run a little better like normally, but when you start blowing up a lot of stuff, it starts to chug a little bit. You're getting down to 20 frames a second and stuff. I will say just leave it on default settings if you can stand it. I think it's 30 frames per second normally, and it's fine. I had a good time with it, just normal. Yeah. And I think that I mean, I did some crazy stuff. Like, there's a whole mission where you gotta blow up a tower, like an entire tower, and then get out of there like as fast as possible, because as soon as the tower is like toppled, you get like 60 seconds to get out. You know, same idea. And when that tower came down, there was some chugging going on a little bit when all the different blocks were just caving in on each other. But you know, it's kind of fun. You're like, damn, this is a humongous tower, like, you know, 50 foot tall, crashing in on itself, landing in a river, catching on fire, blowing up. You know, it's just insanity. So yeah, I feel like a little kid when I play this game, just blowing up stuff, having a good time. This feels like when I first figured out creative mode in Minecraft, and I was just throwing TNT on an entire map just to see what would happen. You know what I mean? That's a lot of the energy I get from this game. So, and the puzzles are well designed. Like, it does seem overwhelming, but when you're sitting there actually planning them out, you can tell the developers took a long time. This game was in early access for a few years, so I think they really fine-tuned these maps to be like, okay, these are doable, and there's a specific run that you can do, but there are like thousands of permutations of a run. You know, you can do it in any way, and I'm sure there's always people optimizing these routes, and I just had a good time just figuring out my own way through it, which, you know, that's the fun part of like a sandbox game anyway. So very creative and unique style of sandbox game, I would say.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds cool. Honestly, even if it did chug or whatever, it's like, that's just seems like part of the fun of the game. Like, you make the frame rate drop, you're like, yeah, I did that. That was me.
That is fun.
Yeah, and it's a lot of the times it's like, all right, I'm going to plan to blow up this door when I run through this door, like during my 60-second thing. You can die and stuff too. You can blow yourself up. But it's like, all right, I got to run, chunk this dynamite, grab this thing, the dynamite will explode. I jump through the hole in the wall. I jump into the car in midair, and then I'm driving the car, and I have to drive it into the water. So I jump out of the car at the last second, then I run across, jump in a boat, go across, grab a computer. You know, it's like you just boom, 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 and you figure it out. And when you get that rundown, man, it's like a rush. You're like, damn, I did that. It took me like 2 hours, but I finally got this map done. Yeah, there's a lot of DLC for this game, so there's like a lot of content I haven't played, so this is one I'm going to be going back to. And there's mod support on PC too, but honestly, I don't know if my PC or even the Steam Deck could run this. Like, I thought, let's play this on Steam Deck, but then I looked at some videos and people are like, yeah, it kind of chugs if you blow anything up on the Steam Deck. So that makes sense because it's, you know, the Steam Deck, but still.
I kind of want to see if my 3070 can handle it, honestly. I'm gonna blow some stuff up.
Yeah, I want to see the same
thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of mods out there. There's like thousands and thousands of mods on the Steam Workshop too. So it's like one of those games that the community is like building upon the infrastructure and doing their own thing with, which is always cool.
Nice.
So to me, I was kind of agonizing on this one if it would be a main quest or a side quest, because I had so much fun with this game. But is it too niche? Is it too weird to put it on the main quest? That's what I was thinking. And before I do that, do you guys have any questions about the game, by the way?
No, I think I get it.
I also don't have any specific questions, but if I could lend some advice, having never played this game, Josh, there are 80,000 people on Steam that apparently love this game, so I don't think it's all that niche. It doesn't. It's not Buckshot Roulette, I will say. So.
I mean, I know it had like a following and stuff. I didn't know
it
was that big. And it does have music. I guess I can mention that, but it's mostly just like very light atmospheric spy music in the background, which is nice. And then it like very, very subtle. And then whenever you hit the 60-second, it's like this really loud, raucous like version of the same song with lots of drums and stuff. So you're like, oh yeah, I gotta go, type of vibe.
Yeah.
Not music I would listen to outside the game, but suits it well. And the explosion sound effects and the destruction sound effects are awesome. Very well designed in that department. So
nice.
I think this game for me is a main quest. The more I sat on it and thought about it, it really is a game that I think that even if you go in and you just play a few maps, and they have a sandbox mode, you can just blow stuff up in if you want to do that. You're going to have fun with it. Like the whole point of it is just a sandbox to have a good time with, but it has objectives. If you try out some objectives and give it a shot, I think you'll have fun with Teardown.
Yeah, I mean, I got it for free on PlayStation Plus, and now I'm like, okay, now I kind of really want to go check this game out.
I feel like it would be the sandbox mode would be great for like post-work de-stressing. Just blow some stuff up.
Definitely, yeah.
So true.
There's apparently like a DLC that's not licensed by Back to the Future, but it's like a time travel explosion thing. So like you blow stuff up in the past that affects the future and stuff like that. So
sweet.
I definitely want to get that DLC and check it out. So like there's a million ideas they can do. I feel like they've really just built a cool engine that it's like this type of game is really something that scratches an itch for me. And when I find one I really like, I kind of dive deep into it. So
this feels like the chaotic evil or maybe the chaotic neutral version of Power Wash Simulator. They satisfy a similar niche, but like, this one is just turning it up to 11, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen some guns that shoot little rockets like super fast and just like blowing up entire cityscapes and stuff on PC. So they have some crazy mods out there, like
nice.
They're not just modding like the maps themselves. There's like new weapons and stuff that people have put in there. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
So yeah, I think that wraps us up for the show today. We got 2 main quests. Steve brought Severed for the PS Vita or Switch. We got Buckshot Roulette, which is just on PC on itch.io. And then we got Teardown, which is on, I think, is it on every console? Yeah, it's on every console and PC. So there's the games today. Awesome. So I think we're wrapping up the show today. What we do at the end here is we do some plugs. So you can find the show at IndieQuest Pod on Twitter, or you can send us emails at IndieQuestPod@gmail.com. Seth, where can they find you on the internet? I usually do Steve first, but that's okay.
You can find me at Captain Drachma on Twitter, and of course in the Polymedia Discord, best place on the internet. Josh already mentioned how to get to the Discord and go to Patreon and come hang out with us. Steve, where can I find you?
Twitch and Twitter is Blinkoom. It's Blink OOMM, like make a big explosion. So come say hi.
What's a show that they can find on our wonderful network at Polymedia? We are part of, what is it, like 8 shows, 10 shows, something like that. A decent amount of shows.
9 if you count Off Kilter as a show.
Yeah.
It is. Got him.
Got him.
Got him. Yeah. If you want to check out a good podcast, we mentioned some spooky adjacent stuff. If you're into horror, I was going to say good times, but I guess it's more correct than bad times. If you're into horror in general, go check out Split Up. All right, which is Jeff and Dylan doing talking about the spooky movies and generally spooky topics, all in all. So it's a good one. Drachma, what do you got?
So, yeah, if you guys want to check out a good podcast, you should go listen to Polykill. They're doing their challenge right now. Super fun time. But I actually want to plug something else and I know this is going to just throw a weird... I should have done it earlier, and I just thought about it. Something that we all actually recently did, and we don't often do this. And I don't know if we're ever going to talk about this game, but everyone should go out and check out Celeste 64.
Yeah, that's just true. I'm surprised no one brought that. Actually,
that is something we should have mentioned at the top. Maybe.
Stick a pin in it, I suppose. Yeah, well.
Yeah, because it was like a game we all been playing too. It's like, whoa, what you guys been playing? Oh, let's forget about Celeste 64, I guess.
I beat it and I moved on, but everyone should. I mean, that's like indie. We brought Celeste. Josh brought Celeste to a previous episode, so it's on the quest log. And Celeste 64 is free. Everyone should go check that out and support the dev. I think we could all agree we would love to see more of that in the future.
Darn tootin'.
Is that one we need to like do a deeper conversation about later or something?
I wouldn't be surprised if one of us brings it to the quest log, but for now I will say, yeah, it's free. Go check it out. It's cool as hell. It's better than Celeste.
Whoa.
I disagree, but that's okay.
I'm just kidding. They're both great. They're both great.
I have a podcast people should check out. It's Point and Drink Adventure. PD and Pam sit down, talk about what they're drinking, some movies they're watching, some games they're playing. It's always a good time. Very chill vibes. I say check it out if you haven't already. So if you want to find that and more, that's at polymedianetwork.com. We also have a subreddit you can follow. You can also comment on the episodes on Spotify now, which is pretty cool. Steve, why don't you give some nice parting words for the folks out there?
All right. Your goal this week, people... There's something in the back of your mind. Some itch that's been clawing at you, scratching away. And you've been putting it off. You've been ignoring it. You've been saying, not now. I don't have the time. This ain't it. But the theme of this episode is here for you. It's to pick one thing and go do it well. So scratch that itch. Make that the focus of your week and go crush it.
Heck yeah.